Alright guys, right now we're going to talk about using the horizontal bandsaw. It's really important that you use this tool correctly because a lot of these components are expensive to replace and we don't really have that kind of money. So we're going to go over how to use these properly, okay? This is the hydraulic cylinder that operates the speed at which this cuts. Okay? If we hit this lever to the right, it keeps our saw blade from falling. Okay? So this is pretty much like a hard stop, this little lever right here. And this is what we're going to use, this little dial, to control our speed. Now, when this horizontal bandsaw is operating or moving up and down, we want to make sure that this is all the way open and that our valve is not locked. We want it going straight up and down to where it's open. We never want to force this bandsaw because these little hydraulic cylinders are really expensive and they break fairly easily, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my nozzle is all the way open, and I'm going to lift this up and open up that lock. I'm going to bring my saw blade down till I'm about 2 inches above my part, and I'm going to lock it. Okay? From there, I'm going to make sure that my piece is lined up properly right where I want it to cut. I want to really make sure that there's no debris or extra chips in here. Get a brush and brush them out if there is. We want our part to be nice and flat on this table. We want to really make sure that it's not being tilted up or being tilted up back here. We want it nice and flat. That's how we're going to get a nice 90-degree cut. Okay? Now, if you're ever curious to if this is actually cutting square, we can take one of our squares here and very carefully measure to see if the blade is squared up on there. And actually it looks pretty decent from right here, so we're not going to worry about that right now. If it is out of square, you can loosen this nut back here and make fine adjustments and tighten it back down to get it squared up with the blade. So once we're about 2 inches above our part, I'm going to line up, make sure that my blade is going to be lined up with where I want to cut. I'm going to use this lever right here to tighten this vise. So there we go. So it kind of just pinches it in place. You want it snug and firm, but you don't want to over tighten. You can over tighten that lever and strip it out. So we don't want to do that. Next, I'm going to turn on my blade, which is right here. Now, you can change the speed at which this goes by altering the belts up on this unit here. I'm going to advise you that you don't. I have it set up how we should have it in our shop already. Next, I want to find my cut rate or the feed that I want, or the speed that I want to feed my blade down with. Okay? If it goes too fast, it's going to just bind up the blade, maybe pop it off the rails, maybe break the blade, maybe damage the material we're trying to cut. We don't want to do that, okay? We want to make sure that this is feeding down nice and slow. So to do that, I'm going to fully close my nozzle all the way, completely close it to where it's tight, and then I'm going to release my lock. Now, because I have this tightened down all the way, it's not moving anywhere, okay? I wanted to get to like a really nice slow speed, and we're going to bring the camera down a little bit lower so you can see what I'm talking about here. So, what I'm going to be doing is slowly loosening this knob until I get the desired feed speed that I want. So I'm just going to slowly loosen that. I'm going to be watching this blade to see how fast it's dropping. It's actually going at a pretty good speed right there. Maybe a little bit fast, but I think that'll be okay. So once I know the right feed speed, I'm just going to let it go. I kind of started a little bit high, but that's okay. I'm going to grab my cutting fluid that I have, and I'm just going to go ahead and lay a little bit down right where I'm going to be cutting. Be careful not to get your fingers or hands in there. You don't want to touch that blade when it's running. looks like maybe we're cutting a little too fast, so I'm gonna go back over to my knob and tighten it just maybe a third of a turn or a quarter of a turn. If it ever sounds like it's getting a little too rough, we can always add a little more cutting fluid down the front of the part right there where the saw is coming into contact. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Make sure you're really gentle on that hydraulic arm.